Did you notice that I didn't show up on camera last week? You did not miss last week's podcast episode. I actually missed last week's podcast episode, and I gave y'all no warning, so I apologize for that. Typically, I script these episodes out a little bit, like not verbatim, but I do a pretty strong outline so that I can stay focused and cover all the things that I want to cover. And it makes it easier for all of the things that have to happen on the back end to occur. So like show notes and the emails that go out to tell people about episodes and the, posts that go up on social and all of that stuff. That's all based on my notes and what I say and what I've outlined. And so it's helpful sometimes for me to script that out. And so I've made I've got a formula. This episode is going to be about what happens when you just don't have it, because I don't. Welcome back to the Humaning Well podcast. I'm Amber Cabral, and let me tell you, this episode is unscripted. I am writing a book. I am 9 days out from having to turn it in. I do not have enough words written. A book, for y'all's information, is 40,000 words. This one's probably going to land closer to 50 or 55,000. 50, as not to make my publisher too angry. And I've only got a good 12,000 written. Now, outline to the gods, okay? But it's just not written. And there are lots of reasons. I've just got a lot going on in this brain, and I'm probably overthinking it. But the point is, I don't have the teaching energy today. This is probably going to be the realest podcast episode I never wrote, because I just have high-level notes, like very high-level notes. And I'm going to just talk to you about a few things, and hopefully something useful comes out of that. And, y'all will tell me. Y'all have gotten really good at leaving reviews and comments on YouTube and finding me on Instagram and in some cases LinkedIn and telling me what you think. So if this episode sucks, I know you'll tell me about it. So I'm going to start by talking about the book and what's going on with that. As I stated, a book is 40,000 words. This one's going to land probably right around 50,000 words. And I only have about 12,000 words written, and it is due in 9 days. Now, for those of you who have been listening for a while, I wrote my first book in 13 days, by the way, don't recommend. But that wasn't the way this was supposed to go. This one was supposed to be a bit more, I don't know why I thought writing a book called How to Be a Good Human would be easier, but it is kicking my butt. And part of it is that I have so many ideas and so many notes, and trying to create the connectivity and cohesiveness so that they work in a book is very different than when you're having a conversation or doing a podcast episode. And so while I have all of this wonderful information, books work a certain way, and putting them together is tedious. And I don't know if I'll ever do it again after this. So yeah, that it's wearing me out. And so I missed my recording window last week, working on the book, working on other things that I needed to get done. And so I didn't get to record an episode on time. And instead of begging my podcast team to, let me record super late and have them editing late and all of that, I just was like, the ball's got to drop. So I didn't do it. And that's okay, because, things happen, right? I think in my last episode, I talked to you about my birthday and what I was doing for my birthday, what I wanted to do for my birthday, or if that wasn't the last episode, it was definitely the episode before that. And I want to talk about what happened at my birthday and what it taught me. For those who haven't heard before, had what I'm calling a pour in. I invited my closest friends to join me in person, and anyone who wanted to participate to join me virtually. By the way, the links are still up if you still want to participate. And I wanted people to pour in. I wasn't looking for gifts, but instead of how some people want to roast and you get folks together and they crack jokes on somebody, I wanted all of my folks to get together and tell me what they loved about me. What do you think about who I am and what I add to the world and what I add to your life, and, why I'm great or dope or whatever you think of me? I want to know, and I want to know in the moment where things feel really tough and I could really use that kind of feedback. And baby, I cried the whole time. It was about 20, maybe 3 people there. and not including myself. And when I tell you, from the first person that spoke, I had tissue in my hand and a steady stream of tears. People said some of the most beautiful things. I did not record it. I wish I had. But also, I feel like people don't act the same on camera as they do off. And so I'm kind of glad that I didn't record it, because I don't know if it would have been as good. My very good friend, and also attorney, said something that has just really stuck with me, and I'm going to share it with you. He said, I have a sketchy relationship with my faith, but I truly believe that if God does exist and decided to take a gender, you are one of the people that have me convinced it must be that of a woman. Mic drop. Like, highest praise I think I've ever heard. Like, totally took me down. And that's saying a lot, because there were so many beautiful things said to me, so many things that were very personal to me. There was this constant theme of how well I sit at the center of so many relationships. And it is true, my relationships with people run deep. I don't get to spend a lot of time with everyone, but I do spend intentional time. I do give people my ear and my energy and my thoughts. And I want to be intimate with the people that are connected to me. And I feel like my birthday was a great confirmation that I achieved that. Like, I'm tearing up now. It was incredible. Best decision ever. I definitely checked in with everybody, because there was a point during, this was probably about an hour and a half of people talking. And I checked in the next day, like, did that feel like a baby shower? Like, where you're like sitting there watching me like open gifts, which I always find to be a little weird. And everybody was like, no, it was inspiring. It was amazing. I don't know if I could do that. It was really, really great. I will probably do it again for my 50th birthday. So really, really incredible experience. And I got a lot of value out of it. So if your people haven't told you what they think of you, or you haven't told your people what you think of them, because that's the other thing that I feel like was so valuable. And I actually messaged this to a girlfriend of mine the other day. We don't tell people what we love about them. We just don't. We don't unsolicited tell folks, I love how joyful you are, and that adds so much to my life. We just don't. And I want to do that more. It inspired me to want to share with the people that I care about what I like about them, what they add, what contribution they put in the world that I just think just totally wouldn't be the same without them. And especially at a time where everybody's kind of struggling, like between the economy and like all the political stuff, and just, there's wars going on around the world, and, the literal planet is suffering. Like, there's a lot. I think we could use some humaning. So I'm glad I had my birthday, because that's probably going to end up in the book, what I thought of it and how I felt about it, and a lot more organized than it sounds here on this podcast. But there was some really valuable things about having that experience, and it taught me how I want to show up going forward. Other things that are going on, on, I guess, a personal note outside of the book and my birthday. Well, I guess this isn't really personal, this is professional. Business is slow. Business is very, 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 very slow. And I am frustrated. I don't know what to do about it. I am tired of some of the things that I would normally be doing about it. Typically, I would draw a lot of business in from like posting on LinkedIn. I just haven't had it to do that. And I'm frustrated with the uncertainty. Like, the work that I do and the value that I add to organizations is important and it's palpable, but it's not something that people really focus on when there's a lot of change. And that sucks, because I help people with human behavior. I, help transform company cultures. I help people be able to better communicate and take better care of themselves and ask for what they need and manage, their workplace frustrations and emotions and all of that. I give people the tools to do that. And what greater time do you need that besides when everything is changing? But when everything is changing, people don't want to spend money. So we're just in a really weird, slow period. And I'm just having a bit of difficulty, like, with sticking it out and even caring about the work I do from a business perspective. Any clients who are listening, please forgive me. I love y'all. I'm grateful for you. I'm just also still really frustrated. And I don't do that. That doesn't show up at work, but it's in there. It's in there. I am definitely feeling the imbalance between my output and my effort and the returns that really matter specifically for business, like revenue and recognition. That's not happening at all. And it takes a lot of energy, and yeah, business is slow and it sucks. And I'm going to do what I can about it to the degree I have energy to do that. But yeah, but that's also kind of what made me miss the podcast too, is like, trying to navigate writing a book and, hosting a podcast. And then I'm also, for businesses, I'm a coach, facilitator, consultant. I do instructional design. I support a couple of other clients from an integrator perspective, meaning I'm helping them to organize their business and create fluidity and connectivity and make things work better together so that they can actually function and have the data they need to do that. I'm an author who's writing a book right now. I also want to write another book that is spicy, right? I'm an aspiring erotica author, I guess you could say. And so like I have Post-its all over my wall with that. I am also working on a documentary about losing my hair and having alopecia and what that's looked like and making the decision to cut it and what it's been like living in it, not having hair, and the emotions that come with that, because I do think women need to see that, and some men as well, and just the embodiment of like a new self and a new body. And I'm also committed to the gym right now. So I've been like really going to the gym, and it's like I feel like I'm starting to see some pounds fall off, but I'm not seeing the body change that I want to see, so like that's kicking my butt. And then I love art. So last weekend I went to Philly and did all the wonderful art things, and it was great. But I can't buy art right now because business is slow and I'm trying to be responsible. So it's like, it was great to soak up art, but then I had this little voice in the back of my mind, like, you didn't do your podcast episode, right? You're behind, so like, I don't know, I'm just having a human moment with y'all right now, that like, just to show that like, I know I show up here and give you a lot of tools and resources and tips and tactics, and I employ them. I really do. I could not do all of the things that I do if I didn't, but I'm also very human and I hit the same walls you do, right? Because also, by the way, I'm also now hosting a television show in Georgia called Job Hunt Georgia that also requires me to do episodes. And by the way, if you'd like to see those episodes, I will make sure the link is in the show notes. If you happen to be in the Metro Atlanta area and are interested in being a guest on the show, I will also put a link to apply to be a guest on the show in the show notes. But like, there's a lot, there are a lot of things. And yeah, I'm tired. I'm frustrated. I am not even sure if I'm walking in the right direction. People always say to me, oh, Amber, I know you have a lot going on. I know you're really busy. Because by the way, I'm also friending and connecting and doing all the things in that way too. I have pushed a lot of stuff off my calendar for the next couple of weeks so I can get this book done. But generally speaking, I make time for my relationships. They matter to me, and but I do get the text. It's like, hey, Amber, I know you're really busy. And I am busy, although I have an interesting relationship with the word busy, because I think being busy isn't necessarily the same as being productive. And I think I'm very productive, but I know what people mean when they say, hey, you're busy, but I'm not just busy. I feel like I am going through a full identity expansion, evolution, renovation, I don't know, one of those, while also being in a business and financial contraction. And I'm frustrated and exhausted, and I'm not sure if I'm headed in the right direction anymore. Like, am I making the best decisions? And for a while, it felt like, you know what? Things are tough. We're riding the wave. And eventually there would be another side of the wave. And I think maybe I'm at the point where I'm like, is there another side of the wave? Like, maybe this is it. I don't know how I feel if this is it. Now, the good news in all of this is that I am working on things that I care about, that I love, that I think deserve to be in the world. I am working on parts of myself that I think are important. I say this all the time, but this podcast isn't just for y'all, it's for me. I'm talking about things that I am actively putting into place, and I know if I wasn't, I would have a lot more of an overwhelming feeling. There's a lot here. And sometimes because I am working on so much and I am in this place where I want to grow, it feels like sometimes I'm on an island, which also then contributes to specific feelings around like dating and partnership that like I can't even begin to cover in this episode, to be honest. So forgive my rambling. That's what's up. I am going to try to script out an episode for you next week, so it's not just me rambling and telling you about my life. Hopefully this doesn't sound like too much of a complaint. I'm just being honest. Like, this is the same way y'all are trying to figure out what it is that you're doing and how you're going to make it work and all that stuff and how you're going to improve. And I'm doing the same thing. I just happen to be talking to you every week about the things I figure out and unlock along the way. So I do got a book I got to get done. So I'm going to go work on that. And depending on where I'm at with that, you may or may not get an episode. And if you get an episode, it may not be traditional. That said, thanks for listening to me ramble. Please go down to the show notes, check out all the links. Have a good week. Take care of yourself. And I will see you in the next episode.